Welcome to the DNX podcast. My name is Sylvia Chrisman and I am your host, and I'm here today with Dr. Christiane Northrup. She is a board-certified OBGYN, a New York Times best-selling author, and a visionary pioneer in women's health. Welcome.
Oh, what a pleasure to be.
Thank you for making the time.
That's fine.
Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm so excited you could make the time. I ran into you at a blockchain event during Mother's Day where we briefly chatted about all things women empowerment, decentralizing and democratizing wealth, and of course, women's health. You know, I first came across you when I read your very first book called Women's Bodies, Women's Wisdom, which was one of my, I would say it was a game changer in my life. So I was very excited to hear that you're actually about to publish another book called Dodging Energy Vampires.
That's right. That book is out. It's kind of my, here's what I discovered. It only took me 40 years to figure this out. But there was a subgroup of people called empaths. Mm-hmm. They're the kind of people who listen to podcasts like this and also Hay House Radio.
Right.
And these are people who feel far more than another group, which are called energy vampires, which is 1 in 5 people. And as I look back over my career, I began to realize that every woman with severe PMS, so many with chronic fatigue fibromyalgia, Epstein-Barr virus, adrenal fatigue, lupus, often has an energy vampire in their lives to whom they are draining their life energy, trying to help a person who's not really willing to do the work to help themselves. It's the person who calls you only when they have a problem. They never reach out to you just to check in ever. And a little part of us that wants to uplift and be a change agent always gives them great advice, which they never follow. So this is a group of people in psychiatry. They're called cluster B individuals, and they have the designation of personality disorder. Now, this is not mental illness in a standard sense because it's what we call ego-syntonic. They truly believe that they are entitled to more than their share. They truly believe that they are better looking and more charismatic and more deserving than anyone else. We do know that deep inside there's an abyss. They don't have an inner sense of self. But character disorder means they don't have a moral compass. And on the farthest out end of the scale are the psychopaths. Those are the people with no conscience whatsoever. And they think that those of us who have a conscience are suckers. So that's a psychopath. That's 1 in 25 people. They often run Fortune 500 companies, countries. and then there are the regular garden variety narcissists, and that's 1 in 5 people. And that includes borderline personality, antisocial, histrionic. And obviously there are both men and women with this designation. And once you know how to kind of diagnose them and stop the energy leakage toward them, you begin to improve your immune system and your overall health. So this was my shortest book, and I wrote it in the quickest amount of time, and kind of boils down 40 years of being on the front lines of women's health, because very, very often women are trying to heal someone like this, and it's not possible until they decide to get better. And this kind of character rarely thinks they're the problem. They think you're the problem. And if you have an inferior ego, like many of us women and many of us empaths, we're always looking for things to improve about ourselves. And
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the truth is that we're here. Bottom line is we're here as to be the light, to hold the light. Many of us identify with being old souls who've lived many, many lifetimes, in many of which we've been burned at the stake or pushed off the mountain for being the one who could heal or midwife or use herbs or crystals or whatever. And you'd get used and then you'd get killed. But we've had so many lifetimes that we hold a great deal of light. So it is our job to be what we really are, which is air purifiers. Just our very being uplifts the planet. So we don't need to exhaust ourselves trying to heal a different species of person called an energy vampire. I like to look at them as a different species. They probably going to have to come back here on the earth a long number of times, but it is not our job to keep leaking energy toward them, because that enables them. It doesn't help them. We keep thinking, and the feedback I get is, but they're human too. They need love too. Of course they do. But they don't need you to drain yourself. Each of us has to do the inner work of truly loving ourselves and doing the right thing, even when other people aren't looking. Yeah.
I mean, personally, I've quite a lot of experiences with energy vampires, which is why I was so taken by your title, because I knew immediately what you meant.
Yes.
I like to love them from a distance.
Yes, that's really good advice, and you can, and divine love. God's love, the Creator's love, is the most powerful force in the universe, but it's not personal love. And so you just literally, you can, as a transmitter and a receiver of divine love, which is what humans are through our hearts and through our fascia and connective tissue, we literally can bring divine love in and then just send it to them. But it's important to realize that true divine love is a toxin to a toxic person. My friend Bob Fritchie, who runs the World Service Institute and worked for 25 years with Marcel Vogel on crystal technology and healing with divine love, they used to measure this stuff. He once went into a dojo where there was a really abusive guy running the whole thing, the master, the sensei, and the guy was abusing young people, and Bob knew he was going to come after him. So he just put up his hand, literally put up his hand, and sent divine love to the guy. And it knocked him against the back wall. So this is a very potent force. It's the old, you've probably heard the phrase, "Get thee behind me, Satan."
Yes.
It's not really Satan. It's not that. It's that there are dark forces on the planet. And it would be a very good idea for the people who listen to this podcast and who are very drawn to love and light. It would be good for us to acknowledge that not all people are good at heart. It's really important to get this message, because otherwise we're cannon fodder for these vampires.
I think, that is something I find is so important to realize, that not everybody has your best interest at heart, and how to set healthy boundaries and also overcome societal expectations, especially for women, that are placed upon us where we're supposed to be more forgiving, or
yes, my God. Yes, if you were a good woman, you would fill in the blank. A good Christian woman or a good Jewish woman or a good Muslim woman would sacrifice themselves for the good of whatever the masculine has in mind at the time. And we're talking, of course, the toxic masculine. The healthy masculine is about protecting and serving. It's not about, sapping your energy. So women feel very, very guilty when they first set a boundary. And one of the things I suggest, if you have a coworker who's an energy vampire or a family member, what you do is just contain your energy. So you become what I call a gray rock. Or the other thing you can do is broken wing. You can drag a leg because they won't go near you if it looks like you have a need. They're only interested if they have a need and can meet it through you. But if you suddenly become completely unappealing, like gray rock, they won't go near you. They'll go looking for another supply. And many empaths think that that's being mean. We really got the wiring diagram messed up.
Right. Yeah, it's the it's the not responding, not playing into it and making yourself really uninteresting because you're not.
Yeah, so the first thing you have to do is you have to learn how to say no. This is very hard for an empathic person, very hard, because you want to be pleasing. Frankly, your ability to please has been associated with survival for centuries. So let's not beat ourselves up, or we can use the labels, right? These are the common labels: codependent, rescue addict, enabler. why do we do that? We do it because for at least the last 6,000, maybe 10,000 years, the original sin of being born female was not redeemable by works. So what did you have to do? You had to be like the servants in Downton Abbey. You had to intuit what was required of you by the masters. So that's called, Mary Chapman has a great book, and she talks about othering. It's othering. You're constantly looking outside yourself for validation. And a real sensitive empath will see someone frowning and think they're responsible. So it's normal to do this othering thing, depending on how sensitive you are, and just notice it in yourself and then congratulate yourself. And that's the first step. And then notice when you start to feel guilty or ashamed. And that's bedrock. I mean, the minute you feel that and you feel how uncomfortable that feels, and you have a support group or you're listening to podcasts like this one, then you suddenly begin to come from your own authentic self. Spend a little time around 2-year-olds because they're developing their boundaries and they're really good at it. So I have a 2-year-old granddaughter, and if she doesn't like something I'm doing, she goes, "Lulu, stop it." And it makes me laugh so hard. She's got no problem because she hasn't been socialized, to not, Lulu, stop it.
Yeah. Nobody untrained her yet that whatever her needs or desires are somehow not okay.
And that's not going to happen either. I mean, because, she's now like 3rd generation, 4th generation of women who are learning how to be. And you don't want to go the opposite. See, here's what happens. And this is very funny to me. Many empaths are afraid to pick up the book, Dodging Energy Vampires. Why? Because, oh my God, what if I'm an energy vampire? That's what so many of, what if it's me? That is diagnostic that you're an empath. Oh yeah, it's diagnostic that you are an empath. If you think you're the vampire, you're an empath. No vampire ever thinks they're the problem. Not ever. I've never seen it happen.
Yeah.
But what they do that's funny, they think they're the empath. So right now, I happen to know several of them, high profile, who are doing courses on the vampire empath duality. Why? Yeah, because that's a hot topic right now. So because they have an unerring, what I call malignant intuition. Malignant. They know they know your weaknesses, and they know what buttons to push, and they'll exploit that and manipulate you for their own benefit. And many times, by the way, they're very good looking.
It's quite cunning.
Yeah, very charismatic. Very good looking, very charismatic. Hollywood is full of them.
Yes, it is. Oh, I'm well aware of that. Yep. Yes. You said something that it's a cunning, malignant ability to understand what other people's needs, what their buttons are. I mean, I've from personal experience been floored how well played some of these individuals would, how well they play into, but just by quickly observing you, feed into your vulnerabilities and like try to get in there as soon as possible.
Yes. And so here's what happens. Those who have the most to offer feel like they have the least to offer. And the vampire gets so far with nothing. I had a vampire friend who put on her resume that she had a degree from this institution, and it was on her resume for doing a treatment for a television series. And I said, you dropped out your sophomore year. She said, well, it felt like I had the degree. That'd be like me saying, gosh, it felt like I finished medical school and residency and got board certified. It felt that way. Oh my God. And believe me, she could, I mean, in her younger years, because there's a phrase, narcissists don't age well. In her younger years, because she was so good looking, she could waltz in, like a drug rep and just, kind of seduce the the producers and so on. So I have a friend whose his career has largely been working with men who've been sexually abused by priests. And he said, 35 years, I've been a clinical psychologist. I'm really good at it. And he said, but I need to understand that I too can be taken in by a really charismatic borderline if she's really good looking and charismatic, or a male the same way. So it's important for us to realize we are human, and these people are incredibly clever. They're so clever. And here's the thing, for you or I to act like they do, like the drama and the this and the that, we would have to be, I think about the drama. I had a friend once, and every time I'd come home, she'd say, you won't believe what's been happening. And it was drama, 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 drama. And I would be sucked in, because for me to feel like that there was that much drama, I tend to be stoic. There'd have to be something amazing going on. There was never anything amazing going on. She was just keeping the pot stirred up because they live on drama.
To me, I always think it's their favorite hobby, right? It's like, oh, there's a problem. Let me find a way to blow that out of proportion, make it all about myself, and kind of find a way to like manipulate the whole situation and possibly find a way to gain from it.
That's right. So if you were to look at what's going on energetically, I want to give you an example of this, which was stunning. Several years ago, I went on a retreat with a bunch of, what would we call it? Bloggers and people who had a big platform, and all in the consciousness realm. And one of my friends asked a crystal healer person to come along who had actually been very charismatic and very, very good at readings and helping us heal. So she brought him along. And unbeknownst to all of us, he was manipulating all of us the whole time. And when I later called Bob Fritchie, who is an engineer and has a lot of experience with computers and with electrical energy and also crystal energy, he told me, because a lot of people started to get sick, and he told me that the guy had programmed every crystal he sold to us to send our life energy back to him. And it was like, whoa, whoa. And, and then, so we're, now we're in the realms of, come on, we're in the woo-woo people. We're in the crystal people, and an energy vampire is taking over. So what we had to do was deprogram all the crystals, and one woman had $130,000 worth of crystals, which she dumped into the ocean. I didn't. I said, oh, come on, I'm not going to let those poor crystals suffer. I just put them on the earth over the bank so I couldn't see them for a year.
Right.
And just let Mother Earth reprogram them. But boy, did we all learn our lesson, because this guy was mega charismatic, very, very good at what he did. But then we later found out that he was abusing my friend who ran the workshop, making her take all of his meals separately to his dwelling, and constantly keeping her off balance to get what is called, and this is an important concept, narcissistic supply. That's the energy they live on. And then the more you learned about him, the worse it got. But we all got sucked in, and, none of us were born yesterday. So, any guru, anyone here's what you notice. Okay. The people who don't have the big following, the gurus with the not big following, generally they have a really solid message.
Yeah.
The gurus with the huge...
They also have really bad websites.
You're terrible websites. Right. That's exactly right. And then, then you get the ones who are all into it, and they got the gazillions of followers, and, and you got to buy this thing here's the recent one that I heard. This was a trap. I almost bit. Okay. So it's someone who does some kind of energy upgrade of your system. And she talked about the fact that we have, attachments to our DNA, old programs for poverty, lack of love, all that. You know that's true.
Yeah.
That's epigenetics. We know that's true. Mark Wallin wrote a book called It Didn't Start With You, which is the effect of intergenerational family trauma, which, you know, that's like what the Bible says. The sins of the fathers are visited on the sons, low on to 7 generations. So there's truth there. But what she's offering is some kind of process where, oh, say, she's told me, you're currently at 650, whatever that means. And that means that you affect, just by being on the planet, 10 million people. But I can get you up to 1,000 so that you will impact, I don't know, 500 million people. But it's like, wait, how do I know what you're doing? I mean, just pay her like $1,000 and that's what she'll do. It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Right now. That talk about, see, we know there's truth to that, but as long as you're being asked always to go outside of yourself and you're promised this thing, you know, so I'm going to make you go from 650 to 1,000, but you're not going to see how I do it. And I channeled this. I mean, whoa. Can you imagine if at my stage of life, I said to women, I can show you how to turn back the clock so that your biologic age is 30 years lower than your chronologic age. I actually can do that. I can show you how to do that. Do you think that most people are going to actually do the work to do that? No. It's easier to complain.
Right. Yeah.
But it's not like, you know, I'm going to do something. You know, it goes back to the Wizard of Oz, you know, pay no attention to the man behind the screen.
Right. Do you think that people are always looking for the quick fix and the shortcut, which is where energy vampires really get them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We really, really want to believe that stuff, you know, that someone can touch your third eye and give you Shaktipat and suddenly you're an awakened master. You know, we really want that without realizing that upgrading our DNA, upgrading our vibration is a kind of a lifelong process. And we all come in with a certain load of karma. The reason that I love the work of Tosha Silver, who wrote Outrageous Openness, Letting the Divine Take the Lead, is that she talks about the processes of aparigraha, samskara. These are ancient Sanskrit words, but they talk about non-attachment. That's not the same as detachment, by the way. No. Non-attachment, which means this or something better. I would like this or something better. And then there's samskara, which is the burning away of the old attachments. And anyone who's ever longed for a soulmate to complete them. I have my hand raised, by the way. Anyone who's ever longed for that, and you're just sure that that is the answer to your life. You are certain that if the right man or woman or transgendered, whatever person came to complete you, everything would be fine. And in fact, when I wrote, right around the time when I wrote The Wisdom of Menopause, I was recently divorced, and I really, truly had the idea that if I could just become the woman that the kind of man I was interested in would like, then that was frankly the fuel that led me to write Goddesses Never Age. And in the process, everybody, and I want to say in the process, I actually fell in love with myself and my own life. And so, of course, the minute, and you've all heard this a million times, and I wish it weren't true, but it is. The minute I no longer needed this guy to complete me, of course, I have a guy. I mean, it's just so freaking typical. I learned Argentine tango. I went to Buenos Aires to dance close embrace, and finally learned how to receive the impulse of the masculine energy in a dance. I mean, I did all that stuff. And the desire, the motivation was always to find the soulmate. And then the answer was always that you are the soulmate. And that's an eternal truth. But what you have to go through to get there is a lot of painful burning off of projection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Oh, God.
You know, I've never, I mean, at least on my journey, it's never been about the shortcut. It's been about the, you know, often painful, slow growth of burning away the karmic seeds that often keep showing up or showing up in different formats. You know, I always like to say that it's like, you know, new outfit, different wig, same pattern.
That's right. Yeah. Same doll, different dress.
Right. You know, like, oh, there you are again. You just look a little different.
No, I know. That's why in Dodging Energy Vampires, what I said was, okay, so just congratulate yourself at how fast you notice it. So generally, you know, you'll have a parent with narcissistic tendencies, or a sister or a brother or an aunt or an uncle somewhere in the family. There's an energy vampire. So that feels like home. That feels normal. So then you marry that. And that doesn't take you as long. And then your best friend becomes that. So maybe the marriage is 24 years. The best friend is 12 years. The business partner is 3 years. The contractor working on your house, you get that in 6 months. Mm-hmm. And by then you have a tribe of people who will tell you. So, okay. So one of the things that I know about a certain kind of woman like me and probably like you, we're born with super traits. Mm-hmm. We have super, and these are have been well studied at Purdue by Sandra Brown, who wrote Women Who Love Psychopaths. And I hate the title, except that it's true.
I gotta read this.
You have to, because she's done all the hardcore research. Right. And she said, so there's a certain kind of woman. We are resourceful, we're practical, we're optimistic, mm-hmm. we're loyal beyond. We can run businesses, become CEOs, federal judges. We have what's called low harm avoidance. We actually don't believe that someone can harm us because our super traits make us so good at being in the world. We see the red flags in other people, but we believe they don't apply to us. So we'll see a guy, let's say, mm-hmm. who's really handsome and very charismatic, and always he complains about his life and his other girlfriends, or his wife won't let him see the kids. Mm-hmm. And then we think, oh, well, I can heal him, and he's never been with a woman like me. I can heal him. So what happens is we literally don't have a filter for these people. So what I do now in my life is I have a business partner. We've worked together forever. She was my first nurse, and she's very intuitive. So I say to her, Diane, if you start to see me going toward one of those people, you need to stop me. And she's very afraid of, what if she's wrong? I said, you can't hide out in later, 3 years later, saying, well, I knew it from the beginning. No. You don't get to do that. You have to say to me in the beginning, I have a bad feeling about this person. And at this point, I'm going to believe you. So I recently went to a big birthday party with some friends in another city, and I was going to meet up with an old friend who had turned out to be a borderline. And I thought, well, what would it harm? She's fun, just to go to dinner with her. And my two inner circle friends go, are you kidding me? What's wrong with you? No, you can't. And it's true. It's true. So, we really are like the bounty big picker upper people who just are good at cleaning up messes. And why even bother, you see, because I know how it's going to end up. It never changes. She's just using my energy.
Leaving you feeling very, very drained, I would assume, right? I mean...
Oh, yeah, always. And then waiting. And, at this point, I'm kind of like, if it seems too good to be true with someone, they're driving you everywhere. They are making sure that your needs are getting taken care of. I mean, to an extreme, mm-hmm. the love bombing mm-hmm. of the early phase mm-hmm. with an energy vampire. Mm-hmm. When it seems too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Yeah, I had somebody once write a love song about me that was just, it felt really great to have those things said about me. I would say the hate mail I consequently got was the inversion of the love song.
Oh no, this is
it was
I
classic.
had a guy
it was
write.
great.
No, it's classic. I had a guy write a whole song about me, and holy cow! And it's a gorgeous song.
Yeah.
It's about the goddess and the this and the that, and he's a good musician and all the rest of it. Great song. And then I began to realize,
I mean, dare to fail those expectations, and you're in for it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Oh, yeah. You know how that song is breaking up is hard to do? I think we could have a song waking up is hard to do.
I feel at this stage I've got a little better at it. I'm a little faster on my feet, not a lot, but a little, a little faster on my feet that I just sort of like dodge out.
Yeah, no, me too.
Then somewhat gracefully, I'm somewhat gracefully dodging these days. Not immediately, usually a little bit too late still. But I sort of duck and dodge.
That's really good. And then, you doubt yourself. Oh my God, they mean well. No, they don't.
They don't.
That's right.
But I would say, luckily, often, the fact that they don't doubt themselves is kindly also then, really supported by the angry messages sent. I find that really helpful when I receive those, because I realize that no, they do not doubt themselves. No.
No, they do not. And it's astounding to me. I had to laugh. My daughter, Anne, who's a wonderful intuitive medium for creative people. She calls herself the muse, and she's great at it. And she'll go, people do not have very good manners on social media. I mean, that's such a sweet way to say these energy vampires are just, they're just trolling your sites. And at this point, I have a real fast knee-jerk response. I used to try to have a civil discourse and answer their questions, but when they start out with attacking or doing a character assassination immediately in the comment, I just ban the user. Now, Matt Kahn, who's a friend of mine who wrote Everything is Working Out for You and does wonderful healing work, Matt said, I just like every comment. I just love bomb them. I actually don't want, that's like planting a seed in every turd they leave on your yard. And yeah, eventually a flower might grow, but I'd prefer to just pick up the turds. So I ban them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, sometimes even the love bombing, because what you were saying earlier, if you love bomb them, because sometimes that makes them even angrier,
Yes, it does. And that's true.
That can really sling back. So I think I had to grow very disciplined in ignoring these attempts of really disturbing my day, my self-esteem or my state of mind, to just be indifferent. One of my very favorite yoga teachers always says, be indifferent to the wicked.
Ooh, that's very good. Be indifferent to the wicked. Yes, that's very, for years when I was in practice, about 25 to 30% of any primary care healer's patient load has a character disorder. And they're just there to get energy. They're not there to actually get well. And when I would inevitably disappoint one of these people and they would send me hate mail, I would be, and that, these were letters. So, before email. And it was so hard. It would take me 2 to 3 weeks to recover from one of these letters, because a person of good character reads the letter and they're looking for the thing that they can improve. And if there's a nice civil discourse where they say, I love you and I, love the care, but this didn't go so well, that's always perfect. But that's not what you get. They're literally tail gunning you. And that's not even worth responding to. The problem in my case is that some of them reported me to the Board of Registration in Medicine. So there's nothing like a high functioning borderline to really mess things up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved this interview. We're at the end of our time. Thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time speaking with us and me today. We're going to post a link to your blog and to your page where you can purchase the book. Where can you purchase the book? Why don't you tell us?
Yeah, you just go to drnorthrup.com or Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
You can get the book anywhere books are sold. And I also recorded it myself in a little studio in South Portland, Maine. So if you want me to talk to you, just talk you through the whole book. Audible books are on the uprise in a huge way now. And I've done all the books myself. So
I love that. Yeah, I you can't say read an audiobook a week. What is it? You listen to an audiobook a week? Yeah. Right?
Yeah, I love it. I love it when you're driving, whatever you're doing. Yeah, it's so good.
Perfect.
Yeah, good.
Perfect. I love it. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. What a pleasure it was to meet you in such a serendipitous way on Mother's Day at a blockchain conference on women in finance. It was just magic.
Yes, it was. Meant to be.
Great.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Before I leave you, I want to invite you into my world. Join us at the DNX Festival in September in Lisbon. If you go to our website and use the promo code podcast50, you get an extra 50 euros off your ticket. And subscribe to this channel and leave us a review if you can. We will review these frequently, and you can leave us a question that we will answer live online. Until next time.